1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. I would like to talk about stranger laws. And I don't mean the laws being strange themselves. I'm talking about laws that target strangers. I don't know how many there are exactly, but there's at least one. And that one is being used against me in Natchitoches. It's a law where the police, if the police don't know you, they have, in Louisiana, they have the right to identify you. And it's a one-time use. It's like, it's a ticket. It's a one-time application, because I have no argument as the stranger to say, hey, we met before. If we've never met, that's the law they can use against me. That's the law they choose to use against me as it stands alone. It's a law that's been used in many other cities against me. This, you're a stranger, we don't know who you are, we have a right to identify you out of our curiosity. All right, that's not what the law says, but it's really turned into a practice of identifying the stranger as the primary law. I've been charged before, like in Idaho, in Horseshoe Bend, Idaho, simply just the failure to ID. Just charged with that. That's all the cop went with. That's all the prosecutor tried to take to the end zone, and it got dropped. But in Idaho, that got dropped at my suppression hearing. It didn't get dropped. I didn't. This here at this court, they don't even know what a suppression hearing is. The Judge Owsley just chooses to continue to call it premature. A premature pre-trial motion is premature before the trial. Where's the logic in that? These are pre-trial motions. They're not post-trial motions. You don't call them post-trial motions, okay? You call them pre-trial motions for... My pre-trial motions are premature, premature pre-trial motions. The logic, let me get back to the stranger laws. So, I get called weird, and that's enough reason for the cops to have to identify me. I got called weird by a credible source, right? The imaginative librarian, who now I could see in their testimony that let me just all right, in their testimony that they have these wild imaginations about me carrying guns, trying to gain access to the third floor by jiggling the door handles, casing the place, which is interesting to me because a librarian did not say casing the place in her 911 call. She didn't say it in her written statements on the day I was arrested, but somehow 3 days later in her video testimony, she said I was casing the place. Sounds like coaching to me. And people mention that in the comments. I guess I didn't really notice that. But either way, this is a stranger law, or also could be called the tourist law. Okay, new people come into an area, cops don't know who they are, and if there's a concern about the person being weird, the cops have to identify them. That's the primary reasonable suspicion. That's the primary probable cause. Primary reasonable cause is to identify them. That's the law. And it's a one-time use. They don't do it to their friends. They don't do it to each other. And why do they need to identify you? They want to run you for warrants. But what if their friend gets a warrant? They don't run their friends. They just say, oh, I know you. We go back. We graduated school together or something. And I think their tendency to not look into their friends for warrants it's not something that's happening. All right, I don't think that they're searching their friends nearly as much as they got to search them strangers. And a lot of times these various crimes happen from people you know, not just strangers who wander into the town and in the first half hour get arrested because they didn't unstranger themselves. I needed to quickly de-stranger myself. They needed to escalate the situation so I would de-stranger myself. Because that's the law in Louisiana. That's how friendly they are. That's a Louisiana welcome. I mean, this is pretty far south. I came in from the north. In Monroe, I had cops called on me, but they actually showed me some respect in Monroe, a little bit more respect, at least. But they don't show me any respect here in Natchitoches. Not from cops to judge. There's a lack of respect, all right? Because they're trying to push my legal boundaries. They're pushing them in various ways, from my identity to incriminating evidence, demanding that I give up incriminating evidence because the prosecutor gave me exculpatory evidence. All of the prosecutor's evidence is exculpatory, and so they demand that I give them incriminating evidence. But it sounds like Judge Owsley walked back a little bit on that. But now that they know me, because I made sure that they got to know me, all right? That's why social media is there. You don't know me? Well, let me help you get to know me, all right? Here I am. Here's what I'm about. Let's spread the word. So we don't have this first-time stranger law being enforced on me again, all right? I want to let them know who I am. I want to let them know where I go. All right, why don't you just get to know everything about me with this stranger law so we can dissipate that concern over me being a stranger. All right, that's what the city has come down to. They're enforcing these stranger laws. They need to know everything about you, my FBI profile, and just everything I have put out on social media. And I put as much as I want to out on social media. I don't care, but they needed to know me within the first 30 seconds of meeting me. And it's incredible how fast how fast do they memorize names? All right, that's the question. And it's just incredible. I came up with a series of questions that I'd like to ask them on the stand, and it's a guarantee that Officer Davis is going to be there, so I can structure my questions for him a little bit better. It's not as guaranteed with Officer Miller or Favors. I need to actually subpoena them myself. And I think I need the librarian too. Sounds like I'll need her. And I need them in there to ask my questions and also to object to my prosecutor's questions. Pretty much, I'm thinking every question my prosecutor asks I need to object to. I should have this sign like I'm bidding, just so I don't have to keep yelling out objection. Like I put up this sign that says objection, and maybe have a couple. Irrelevant. Objection, leading the witness. Objection, imagination is not a fact. Because everything the librarian says is irrelevant. It's an objectionable, irrelevant objection. Apparently, I can also say objection. I'll leave it to the court to decide on that. I can object and then say the court should know what I'm objecting about. I mean, it's pretty clear, and it's going to be sneaky with these objections. I need to practice. So if anybody wants to offer help, maybe on a Zoom meeting or something, I could you could ask, maybe give you a list of questions or something, and then I practice objecting to them. Like like asking the librarian, where were you at 12:30? And then I'll be, objection, it's irrelevant. Because these situations, the whole situation is, it comes down to only one thing: the arrest. This is a simple charge. It doesn't need to bring in the librarian's imagination about me carrying guns and jiggling door handles and casing the place and making banging noises to set up for a big grand finale at the library with 2 people in there quietly reading, a couple of librarians in there with their wild imaginations. All those books have gotten to their heads. And it's unfortunate more people don't have those types of, don't have as much enthusiasm for the books as these guys. But when they do get enthusiasm for the books, boy, do their imaginations fly. But I'm a stranger. I'm not so much a stranger now, so I'm treated differently. I mean, I'm pitied still. I was a pitiful stranger when I got here, and now I'm just a pitiful known person at this point. But yeah, nonetheless, how they treat tourists, strangers, people who just come into town. Imagine back in the old days how that would have went down. You just a stranger in the pioneer days coming into a new town, and what? People say, oh, this guy's weird. And maybe I walk by the sheriff's office and they see me and they're like, this looks curious. Maybe I better go check him out. Or somebody runs to the sheriff's office to let them know that some weird guy's in town. So what? Those are back in the days when nobody had ID. My ancestors didn't quite have ID. There was a point, plastic had to get invented first before we could move on to the plastic IDs. So what did you do to try to bring their concerns into more reality about you being the stranger? Are you gonna rob this bank? I saw you walk by the bank. Are you gonna rob it? You know, their imaginations get pretty wild sometimes. And apparently the librarian said it was because of the news. It wasn't the local area, which scares me because people are shooting guns off into the city. And I think half of those gunshots are probably cops shooting them off. They can get away with that. The librarian says it was because of the news. He didn't say local news. He didn't say because of the city. He said news, like it's a national. He was learning about how dangerous the library can be from national news, and using that imagination against me. It's like, yeah, the news may seem to report facts, but those are biased facts. The person rationalizes in their head the worst outcome. Prepare for the worst, but expect the best, type of thing. Well, this is what results. They pick on strangers. I mean, strangers have been picked on for years. I've been picked on in a lot of cities in my travels, and you know that's been going on ever since a city was formed. So a new person walks in, they're a stranger. They have to, the locals have to find out all about them. It depends on the culture. Some cultures are a little more sensitive to strangers, just like I learned how sensitive people are to bears in Minnesota. Oh my God, I saw a bear 5 miles away and it's running. Let's tell everybody within a 10-mile area. But you go to Steamboat Springs, Colorado, and people see a bear cross the street right in front of them and don't say a word. Oh, they're just big dogs. The only time they'll call the cops for the bears is when the bears are trying to get in the garbage. I've had bears walk right by me while I was waiting for my court case in Steamboat Springs. Officer John Krager in Hayden, Colorado, arrested me over pretty much the same stuff I got arrested for here. And my biggest concern was the bears, but none tried to get in my car with all the delicious food I had in here over the time. So strangers get treated differently. There's certain laws that really target the strangers badly, that they're taking advantage of here. All right, the stranger law, the tourist law. Is it right? Is it right they do that? Because it looks very discriminatory to me that certain people get picked out. The stranger gets picked out for not having committed a crime. They got a known person. A known person could do the same thing as me and not get picked on as much. All right, it's very discriminatory. Not a racial thing. It's a power tripping thing. As a stranger, since you're unknown, and if you look like you can be taken advantage of, they'll be happy to do it, because they think maybe in a way they're running you out of town, since you don't have any like grounding connections in the area. So it's something that they could take advantage of as strangers. And apparently historically in Natchitoches, this town was built, it's considered the oldest town, whatever, and they made it into kind of one guy took it upon himself to build it up into a big tourist area, a popular tourist area, but then that fell out of favor over time after he finished. And it's amazing. There's people who really take on really champion a cause and make some amazing progress. But then it's just their reign of activity. Once they're done, it's the activity is done, and then it starts to fall apart afterward. One person can just pull things together really well, and then when they're done in whatever way, it falls apart. That's just how it has worked over time. The next people just don't carry the same enthusiasm or knowledge or whatever. So this was built up pretty good as a good tourist, as far as I understand. This is just one person saying this. It's built up as a big tourist area, and then it just started falling apart. But apparently it's still being built up as a tourist area. Just, I don't know, there's just one guy who really inspired it way back in the 80s. But when was the stranger law written? When did they start the stranger law? Was it during the time that this big tourism movement started? So, or afterward? How recent? I think the last revision was sometime in the 2000s, not the 80s. But either way, it's difficult to deal with. I have to warn people about this city. I have a criminal case coming up April 11th about the stranger law, and I gotta sit through a trial over their stranger law. It really ticks me off, but I mean, it's their choice. I'm not guilty. It's their choice to prove me guilty. So we'll see how that works out. Because I mean, I can't just run away from it. All right, the prosecutor tells me to just run, but I still have the FBI monkey, the misdemeanor monkey on my back. The FBI doesn't just record felonies that follow me around. They also do the misdemeanors. So the misdemeanors follow me from city to city. So I got several of these FBI reports on me for misdemeanors that were dropped, but they're still recorded, and so I have to fight this because the next city will be harder on me if I run away from this. They'll be like, oh, he ran away from that misdemeanor. They'll probably do the same with us. So I have to take this to the full conclusion at the detriment to my health. All right, dealing with this, my time, the detriment to my time, and everything. They're the ones who pretty much have jailed me, but in paperwork. I've got a paper jail. All right, they've surrounded me with sheets of paper. I'm getting buried in paperwork in my car. Sheets of paper that have jailed me until I can get this case closed. That's just how it is. So I'm gonna stop here. All right, let's see. Done, and done, and done.